Oh, the weather outside is frightful, and the fire is also frightful. Everything in life is frightful. Let me die, let me die, let me die. Hello there, people of the internet. How is everybody doing today? I'm doing alright, thanks for asking. So, continuing our little series of checking out every type of rifle that I own versus every rifle I own. Man, I'd be out here for a month doing that. So we're just going by my different types of rifles that I have. Today we're checking out some of my Spanish Mausers, specifically all of my Spanish Mausers, specifically the only kind of Spanish Mauser that I have. So these right here are my Oviedo Spanish Mausers, chambered in 308. I've only got two of them. Well, they're not actually chambered in 308, but we'll get into that. I got two of them. One of them's a little on the sketchier side, which is why I named it Old Sketchy, and the other one is actually quite nice. We'll go ahead and take a look at Old Sketchy first. Both of these are going to be the same exact gun, besides the fact that Old Sketchy has been sporterized. Well, sporterized to the extent that the front of the stock has been cut down. You'll see here in a second. Now, the Oviedo 1916 Mauser is a 1893 Mauser action. It used to originally be chambered in 7mm Spanish Mauser, and whenever they adopted these things in 1916, originally these were intended to replace their 1895 cavalry carbines. Now, these never really saw any use in the First or Second World War simply because the Spanish were neutral in that conflict. However, these did get a lot of use besides that, specifically in the Spanish Civil War. There was a whole mess that happened to these in the Spanish Civil War. Pretty much, Spanish Civil War, they needed whatever guns that they could get their hands on, which included the stockpiles of guns that they had in their government warehouses. So, now the 1893 pattern of rifle is, of course, one of the rifles that came before the Mauser model 1898, which is considered one of the greatest Mauser models ever made. These right here do have a bit of a downside to them, meaning there's only two locking lugs, so the action is not as stout as an 1898 would be. However, it is still needless to say that these are some exquisitely nice rifles. Anyone who has ever used an 1893 model Mauser knows just how nice they are. They are a cock-on close action, which means you don't have the resistance that you would have opening the rifle that you would normally have on an 1898 pattern. Now let's fast forward a little bit. Late 1950s. NATO is becoming a thing, and they are standardizing on one specific round. This round is going to become 7.62 NATO, or as we call it over here in the United States, 308 Winchester. There is a difference in pressures with those rounds, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but for the most part, they're the same besides the pressures. But Spain is developing a rifle which originally became the Setme. They are developing a rifle to use this new cartridge that NATO is standardizing on, and they had all these 7mm 1893 pattern Spanish Mausers laying in warehouses, and they didn't want to just throw them away, so they rechambered them to take this 7.62 NATO round. However, they were uncertain as to whether or not it could handle it, so they actually adopted their own cartridge, the 7.62 Setme, which was at a lower pressure than the 7.62 NATO round. Now, since then, several tests have been ran on these rifles. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and stick one of the tests down below. Several tests have been ran on these rifles to figure out just how much they can take, and we never saw any significant detonation of these guns until they started reaching in excess of about 98,000 psi. Now, regular military ball ammunition only runs about 5,500 psi, so quite you would almost have to get double the pressures in order to risk this rifle detonating in your face. However, I have been out here on several occasions with just regular 308 ammunition. I do get pressure stuck whenever I'm using commercial grade high pressure ammunition. So I would not recommend the commercial grade stuff in these rifles. However, as far as the military ball stuff, the lower pressure 7.62 NATO stuff, I fired that out of these rifles plenty of times. No pressure stuck, no bulging primers, no cracked cases, no nothing. So you're going to be fine shooting the M80 ball or whatever it is, military spec ammunition that you got. Now these rifles aren't exactly sought after, they're not chased, they're not hunted, they're not collectible. In the 1980s they were sold off as surplus. And everything beyond that moment is just kind of history. They came to the United States by the, truckload, by the handful, by the barge load. We had a whole bunch of these come to the United States. And they are a nice cheap alternative to having a good rifle, as long as you don't use the wrong kind of ammunition in it. Speaking of ammunition, today we're going to be running some military spec 7.62 by 51 ball. I'm not sure what manufacturer this is. HP, don't know who that is, but hey, it's ball ammo, so if it goes bang, it'll work. This appears to be 1979 production. Hopefully we don't have any hang fires or any misfires, anything like that, because I hate that. Alright, now into a bit of personal history. This is Old Sketchy. I drove across the state of Florida to pick this thing up. I stuck a fair amount of regular 308 ammunition through this thing, but this was before I understood that it wasn't meant for those kinds of pressures, especially since the bolt only has 2 locking lugs on it and not the third strengthening locking lug that the 98 model has. As a result, this rifle got pressure stuck pretty often. I did eventually end up breaking the extractor on this thing. I'm gonna eventually get around to getting myself a new one, because this is actually quite the nice little rifle. You can actually see on the stock right here little dings and nicks from how often I had to beat this thing open. I mean, not that I cared. I picked this thing up for 80 bucks, I think. No, wait, I traded a shotgun for it and $25. So yeah, about 80 bucks I spent on this rifle. And the stock is cracked, it's been cut down. I wasn't really concerned about dinging it up. Now this 1916 Oviedo Mauser, I would be very concerned about dinging up, because this has one beautiful stock on it. However, the bluing on this particular gun is not great. I got this gun off a gun broker, paid 100 bucks for it, 80 for that one, 100 for this one, won it at an auction. Nobody wanted it, so I figured I'd go ahead and give it a home. Now, if you are concerned about a case rupture or something happening inside the gun, there is a little vent hole on the side to prevent hot gas from blasting back into your face. And it works really well, because I have had case ruptures with these guns. But that was typically whenever I was firing really, really hot 308 ammo. Particularly, I fired a Hornady round through one of these, and the case had split, and just a bit of hot gas went out the side, and it was kind of hard to pull that thing out, but hey, I pulled it out. That did not sound right, I apologize. Alright, well, there's a very brief history behind these Spanish Mausers. There's not a whole lot to really tell about them. They got used in the Spanish Civil War. They never saw use in World War I or World War II. They're in 1893 pattern. Got shipped over here in surplus. They got reconfigured for 7.62 set me in the 1950s or 60s, somewhere around there. And now they litter the United States as a very, very cheap, readily available, readily accessible rifle. So I guess that I could shoot Old Sketchy, but she doesn't have an extractor in her. Well, she does have an extractor in her. The extractor is busted on her. So we'll go ahead and fire a couple rounds through her, but in order to extract anything from her, I'll have to use my extracting tool right here. I always keep that out here because sometimes rounds just get stuck. Alright, let's go ahead and blast a round out of Old Sketchy here. Now fire at our target down there. I opened the bolt and forgot that the extractor doesn't work on this thing. Alright, primer looks fine, case looks fine. There's even a little bit of lubrication on these rounds. That is a nice little round. Alright, it wasn't a hang fire either. And we hit our target. How do you like that? I missed that one though. Don't make fun of me for that. Alright, well, we proved Old Sketchy works. Just gotta get me an extractor for it. The extractors on these guns are definitely their weak point. Spanish metallurgy, back whenever these right here were being made, was not the best. As a matter of fact, my nice Tiger Stripe 1916 actually has a 7mm Spanish Mauser extractor on it versus the 308. I couldn't find a 308 extractor for this thing, so I got a 7mm. I did some filing, some finagling, made it work, and it kind of works. Well, it works well enough to get the rounds out. I always love coming out and shooting these rifles. Like these particular rifles. Maybe not Old Sketchy, because she's a little sketchy. But this one right here is quite nice. Way, way smoother, way nicer than Old Sketchy. The trigger on it is much better as well. Unfortunately, the sight block on these things is absolutely awful. And I can't see my front sight, so I just have to kind of assume that I know where it is. Look at that. That extracted just fine. And we're making hits on target. Man, this is awesome. Oh, missed that one, but I felt myself pull that one right. So, cool. Last time I was out here, this 7mm extractor wasn't really the best. But, I don't know, maybe it just had to break itself in. Although now that I know the 7mm Mauser extractor works, I'm going to get one for Old Sketchy. This way, that one extracts as well. You know what? That was such a fun time that we're going to go ahead and fire a few more rounds out of this thing. I say we go ahead and we step out to some longer distances, and we're going to see if I can manage to make shots out that way. I wouldn't be able to do that with Old Sketchy. The trigger on that thing is rough. Like, it's definitely rusted or pitted or something. But the trigger on this one is quite nice. Alright, let's head out to 100 yards or so. Alright, I apologize in advance for any wind noise. We do have a slight breeze coming in because we got a bit of weather coming in by the looks of it. But that's not important right now. And a breeze isn't really something to worry about. Stay there. I'm watching you, camera. Breeze isn't really something to worry about at 100 yards. So I'm just going to go ahead. See if I can make this hit. Look at that. I think I hit the ground though. Maybe it bounced up. That one hit the crap. I watched that one hit the crap. Okay. Well, it's not the most comfortable rifle that I have to shoot. And it's not exactly the most accurate. I think a lot of that has to do with how much this bolt moves around as you pull the trigger. That was one of the reasons why I named that one Old Sketchy, because the bolt moves around quite a bit as you're pulling that trigger. I'm sure that's normal with these Mausers, because both of my Oviedo Mausers do it, but that doesn't mean it makes me comfortable. Alright, you convinced me. A few more rounds before we head in, just because I'm having so much fun. Alright, now, at 1979 production, I can pretty much guarantee that this ammunition is going to be corrosive. So after this, I'm going to have me some cleaning to do. Alright, let's see if I can manage to hit anything. Come on, baby. I can't see my front sight, that's my biggest problem. That one was high. I know that one was high, I saw the front sight pop up. Alright. The little V-notch on these things are like tiny. Tiny, tiny, tiny. My eyesight is already bad to begin with. And whenever I'm looking at the rear sight on most rifles, it's already a blur. Like, I can't see through the little V-notch on this thing at all. So I just got to kind of look at the front sight and lower it down to where I can't really see it anymore. and that's the best that I can do with my eyesight. Alright, well, this was fun, although now I got some cleaning to do. Let me see, what time is it? Do I have enough time to make another video? I do not. I do not have enough time. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you like this kind of stuff, and if you do, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, because as you can see from our car down there, I do this kind of stuff all the time. If you're new to the channel, hey, welcome to the channel. Go ahead and like the video if you actually like the video. YouTube's kind of anti-gun right now, so every like, every subscription, every share definitely helps this channel grow. And I'm trying to grow the channel as much as possible. Check out the description. You're going to find a link to my social medias, Patreon, Discord, a link to my second channel where I get drunk and play video games. That's kind of my fallback channel just in case YouTube's, anti-gun boot comes crashing down onto this channel. So that's going to be my fallback plan. You're definitely going to help support this channel by subscribing to that one as well. Not only that, but it's a whole lot of fun watching me get drunk and freak out with video games. Alright, well, I do see a bit of surface rust starting to pop up on this thing, so whenever I clean it, I'm probably just going to take some oil and a rag, run over all of this thing, because I don't want any more pitting to show up. She's already quite pitted, and the bluing on her is pretty much non-existent. But that doesn't mean that she is a bad rifle. As a matter of fact, I was impressed with the accuracy that we were getting. Anyway, I'm just kind of over here looking at this rifle. Every time I look at this rifle, I'm just absolutely blown away with how gorgeous this stock is. Like, absolutely blown away. I definitely got myself a win whenever I got this thing for $100 shipped. Oh, it was great. Oh, I love Gunbroker so much. There's times on it where you don't find anything at all, but then there's times where you get things that are absolutely fantastic. You could probably still get yourself some Oviedo 308 Mausers on there for pretty cheap. Go check it out. Anyway, that being said, thanks for watching. I see the weather starting to move in faster and faster and faster, so I'm going to assume it's going to start to rain soon, so I'm going to go do whatever it is that I'm going to go do. You guys go off. Have a fantastic day. And once again, thanks for watching. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. Shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.